It was 2:43 a.m. when Sarah woke up to the sound of her baby crying. But when she looked at the monitor, she saw that the baby wasn't crying, and no one was in the room. She sat down. Her heart was pounding. The monitor's small speaker softly hissed. Shh, everything is fine. Mom is here. But the voice wasn't hers. His husband was away on business. No one else should have been in the house. He turned up the monitor's volume. The whisper grew sharper and almost turned into a loving voice. "Who's there?" he shouted in a high-pitched voice. The no one didn't answer. The monitor suddenly went blank, and the light from the camera in baby's room turned red. The camera had detected movement. Sarah turned on her phone's flashlight and started running up the stairs. The door slowly opened. The baby sleeps still and relaxed. But the monitor was turned toward the window. He took it in his hand. The reflection in the window showed him standing there, but he sensed someone behind him, a long shadow, faceless, and only breathing sounds came from it. He looked around but saw nothing. There was a chill in the air. The baby started crying again. He quickly climbed down from the pillows and checked the monitor screen. And he couldn't believe what he saw. The shadow was still there, standing next to the bed. Then the camera slowly turned towards the shadow. And the screen went black, and a slow, terrifying sound came.
"Don't wake him up. He's finally fallen asleep."
Suddenly fainted from the shock of what she had experienced. A short while later, around 5 a.m., she woke up to the sound of an alarm. She went upstairs to check on her baby. Everything seemed fine. Then she heard a sudden door slam from downstairs. Filled with fear and panic, she rushed downstairs. When she reached the door, she was trembling with fear. Finally gathering her courage, she reflexively opened the door and saw her husband standing there.
He looked at his wife with a smile and said, "I'm sorry for waking you, sweetheart, but I had to come suddenly."
After he finished speaking, her husband, seeing the blank expression on Sarah's face, couldn't understand what was going on. When he asked her what was wrong, Sarah couldn't hold back her tears and hugged him. The man froze and began to ask,
"Honey, what's going on? What's the problem?"
Sarah just cried and hugged her husband tightly. Too scared to say what was happening. The man hugged her back, took Sarah inside, sat her down on the couch, and after bringing her a glass of water, asked again what was happening. The first thing that came to his mind was their baby. He ran to the baby's room and burst into the room. The baby was sleeping. Everything seemed fine. When he came back downstairs, Sarah seemed a little better and looked okay. The relief of seeing her husband was clearly visible on her face. Just as he was about to speak, a message tone sounded from her phone. The message was from her husband.
Good morning, my love. Today is as bright as your face. Please call me when you wake up.
Sarah felt as if she had been struck in the head. Suddenly, fear and anxiety overwhelmed her mind, and her vision went dark. After about 5 or 10 seconds, she came to her senses and was so frightened she didn't know what to do. Crazy questions were spinning in her head. What am I going through? What is all this? If that thing wasn't my husband, then what was it? Actually, the answer was obvious. The whispering had returned. Sarah couldn't think straight from fear. Her mind was not in the right place. Suddenly she thought of her baby and ran upstairs, rushing inside. The baby was still sleeping. There seemed to be no problem. Sarah pulled herself together and went downstairs, wanting to go out into the garden and check the surroundings. When she stepped outside the door, everything was quiet and deserted, covered in grey clouds, and there was a chilly, murmuring air. It was a truly eerie atmosphere outside, matching what she had just experienced. After walking around the front yard, she decided to check the shed in the back. She cautiously made her way there. As she approached, she heard some strange noises. She saw a stick outside the shed and decided to pick it up. Just as she was standing in front of the door, a loud noise came from inside, as if someone had dropped something. Summoning her courage, Sarah held her breath and suddenly rushed into the shed. There was nothing but sunlight filtering through the wood and old furniture. Sarah's heart was pounding, as if it were about to burst out of her chest. Suddenly, a sound came from a metal can on her left. Sarah reflexively swung the stick in her hand, but the source of the sound was a fox. It must have been hungry or cold, so it had taken shelter in the cabin. Sarah took a deep breath and started laughing. Her nerves were shot. When she approached it to pet it, the wild fox suddenly ran away through the open door of the cabin. "Hey!" she shouted, running out of the cabin after it. When she looked around, the fox was nowhere to be seen. She turned her head to the right as usual and saw the shadow staring at her on the path in the front yard. And at that moment, she froze. They were face to face, staring at each other. Sarah's mind was racing. She didn't know what to do. The shadow began to whisper, calling out Sarah's name. But this wasn't a normal whisper. The sound was literally ringing in Sarah's ears. Unable to bear the sound, Sarah covered her ears, but the sound didn't diminish. A few seconds later, the sound stopped. Sarah raised her head and looked at the shadow again. The shadow was still looking at Sarah and suddenly began walking towards her. Paralyzed with fear, Sarah, not knowing what to do, locked herself in the cabin.
From that moment on, the only sounds inside the cabin were Sarah's rapid heartbeat and her quick, shallow breathing. She was so terrified that her entire body trembled uncontrollably. The adrenaline coursing through her veins had completely taken over. Not knowing what to do, she paced back and forth in panic, while the whispering shadow seemed to be toying with her. Suddenly, her baby came to mind. The baby was alone at home, while Sarah was trapped in this cabin. Outside, everything was silent. There was no movement, no sound, nothing. The whisperer had vanished again. As silence took over, anxiety grew inside Sarah. Her baby was alone in that huge house. And out here, something dark and unseen was watching. Horrified by her own thoughts, she hesitated only for a few seconds before deciding she had to act. No matter the risk, she would run from the cabin, across the yard, and into the house to reach her child. Fear gave way to determination. Within minutes, she gathered her courage and burst out of the cabin, running toward the house. When she reached the front yard, she froze. The whisperer stood before her. Behind her was the front door, the way inside. Her knees trembled. For a moment, she considered turning back, but her baby's safety came first. She turned sharply and sprinted toward the house, only to see the whisperer now standing at the door. The figure had appeared there instantly, as if it had teleported. Terrified, Sarah turned back, but the creature was gone. Then, from behind the house, came the faint sound of an engine. A car. The noise filled her with both fear and hope. Maybe someone could help. The shadow vanished at the sound, and Sarah ran toward the road, following the noise. From the corner of her eye, she could still see the dark shape watching from the woods. She squeezed her eyes shut and whispered, "No, no, enough," as she ran faster down the hill. A few meters ahead, a pickup truck was parked by the roadside. A man stood beside it, smoking a cigarette. That must have been the sound she heard. Sarah felt tears welling up. This might be her only chance. She screamed, "Please, help me!" The man froze, startled. A young woman was running toward him, terrified. "What's going on?" he called out cautiously. Gasping for air, Sarah cried, "Please help me! Something's after me!" The man frowned. The woman before him was pale as a ghost, her eyes wild with fear. "Who's after you?" he asked. "The whisperer. A shadow," Sarah stammered, her voice trembling. The man blinked. "A shadow? Are you saying you're running from a shadow? That's impossible." "I know how it sounds," she said, crying. "But it's been following me for 2 days. I swear. And my baby is alone at home. It won't let me reach her." The man could tell she wasn't lying, but her words sounded insane. Was this a trap? Was someone trying to lure him into danger? Still, he stayed calm and spoke gently. "All right, I'll help you. But you need to calm down first. Come here. Tell me everything." He handed her a bottle of water from his truck. Her hands shook so badly she couldn't open it, so he helped her. Between shallow breaths, she kept muttering, "It's following me. It's following me." The man pressed for details. Sarah, trembling, began recounting everything from the beginning. By the time she finished, he was skeptical. "Are you on something?" he asked, half joking. Sarah glared at him. "Is this a joke to you?" "My baby is in danger," she cried. Apologizing, the man asked where she lived. "About 100 meters from here," she said. "All right," he replied. "I'm calling the police." We'll go there together, but they should come too, just in case. Sarah nodded, relieved. Good idea. I lost my phone. He called the authorities, reported a possible abduction involving a baby, and gave their location. The operator warned him that help would take about 15 to 20 minutes to arrive and told him to stay safe. He hung up and started the truck. When they reached the house, he hesitated. Something felt wrong. "Are you sure this is the place?" he asked. "Yes. Why?" "Because it doesn't look like anyone's been here for years," he murmured. He got out, opened the back, and took out his hunting rifle. Sarah panicked. "What are you doing with that?" "Relax," he said. "It's for protection. I'm a licensed hunter. We don't know what's out here." Despite her fear, Sarah ran to the gate. He followed close behind. Just as they were about to enter, a rustle came from the bushes. The man aimed his gun. Then a fox darted out and disappeared into the woods. "Damn fox," he muttered. They entered the yard. The place was huge, with an old two-story house in the center, silent and seemingly abandoned. The man's unease deepened. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" he asked again. "Yes," Sarah snapped. "This is my home." He sighed. "Then you open the door." "I'll cover you." The door creaked open. Inside was darkness, dust, broken furniture, cobwebs. The man's heart began to race. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. "Are you kidding me?" He pointed his gun at her. Sarah raised her hands, crying. "What are you doing? You brought me here for what? There's no one here. No baby. Nothing," he yelled. Ignoring him, Sarah rushed upstairs. "I'll show you. She's here." He followed reluctantly. The floorboards groaned beneath their feet. When they reached the room, Sarah gasped with relief. "Thank God," she whispered, lifting her baby from the crib. "See? She's fine." The man froze. In her arms wasn't a baby, but an old, dusty doll. Outside, sirens wailed. The man rushed downstairs, leaving the woman behind. Police officers surrounded the area, shouting for him to drop his weapon. He obeyed, explaining everything quickly. Moments later, Sarah stepped out, clutching the baby. One of the officers recognized her immediately. "It's all right, Sarah," he said gently. "You're safe now. Let the medics check you and your baby, okay?" As paramedics approached her, another officer pulled the man aside. "Listen," he said quietly. "That house has been abandoned for years. Her husband and child died in a car accident. Sarah never recovered. She suffers from severe schizophrenia and sometimes comes back here, thinking they're still alive." The man stood speechless, staring at the decrepit house. What he had thought was a nightmare turned out to be something even more tragic. After giving his statement, he drove away in silence, his mind haunted by the image of a grieving mother holding a doll. Meanwhile, Sarah and her baby were taken home safely to her mother's care.
Every story has its truth. Subscribe for the next nightmare.